Do you think your dog putting a paw on you is just a cute little habit? It may not be that simple. Some people see it as affection. Others assume it is just a random behavior dogs do without thinking. But in many cases, this small gesture is actually intentional. Your dog may be trying to influence you in a way that feels gentle on the surface, but carries more meaning than most people realize. And if you keep giving it only one explanation, you may miss what your dog is truly trying to communicate. In this video, we are going to walk through 6 of the most important reasons dogs put their paw on you, and why the meaning of that moment always depends on the context. This video is not going to reduce pawing to one easy answer, like your dog loves you or your dog wants attention. Instead, we are going to look at it for what it often is, a flexible form of communication. The same paw on your arm, your leg, or your lap can mean very different things depending on the moment, your dog's emotional state, and the way you have responded to that behavior in the past. Through 6 key possibilities, we will explore when pawing is a request for attention, when it is a way of holding on to closeness, when it is a search for reassurance, when it becomes a learned habit, when it may reflect mild stress, and finally, how to read the behavior more accurately instead of guessing based on emotion alone. 1. Sometimes your dog is simply trying to get your attention. The most direct explanation is often the right one. Sometimes when your dog puts a paw on you, they are trying to bring your attention back to them, not with barking, not with jumping, not with chaos, with a small, quiet gesture that says a lot. This kind of pawing often happens when your focus has drifted somewhere else. You are looking at your phone, talking to another person, working on your laptop, watching television, or maybe you were petting your dog a moment ago and then stopped. In that instant, the paw is not random at all. It is your dog's way of reopening the connection. Look at me. Do not stop yet. I am still here. What makes this behavior so easy to miss is that it often looks gentle. It does not feel demanding in the way barking or whining does. But that softness is exactly why it works so well. Your dog has found a way to interrupt your attention without creating a big conflict. It is a polite nudge, but it is still a nudge. And for many dogs, that small touch is incredibly effective. The moment they place a paw on your leg, you glance down. You speak, you smile, you touch them again. From your dog's point of view, the message landed. That is why this behavior can feel so personal. Your dog is not just making contact with your body. They are trying to step back into your awareness. So before reading too much into the moment, it is worth starting with the simplest possibility. Your dog may not be asking for anything complicated at all. They may just be saying, very clearly and very quietly, pay attention to me. 2. Sometimes your dog is not asking for more. They are simply trying to keep a small point of contact with you. Not every paw on your arm or leg is a request to start something new. Sometimes your dog is already close to you. The room is quiet. Nothing dramatic is happening. You may be sitting on the couch, resting in bed, or simply sharing a calm moment together. And in that kind of silence, a paw can mean something softer than a demand. It can mean, stay here with me. This kind of pawing often feels different from attention-seeking. It is usually slower, gentler, and less insistent. Your dog is not trying to pull you back from your phone or interrupt what you are doing. They may already have your presence. What they seem to want is to hold on to that sense of connection in a small physical way. A light paw on your hand, a paw resting across your leg, a quiet touch that remains there without urgency. In those moments, the gesture is less about changing your behavior and more about preserving closeness. It is a simple way for your dog to say that the connection matters, even when nothing exciting is happening. Not every bond is expressed through movement. Sometimes it is expressed through staying. That is what makes this kind of contact so easy to overlook. Because it is so calm, people often assume it means nothing. But for many dogs, touch itself is part of how they maintain social connection. They do not always need a full interaction. Sometimes a small point of contact is enough to say, I am still with you, and I want to keep feeling that. So if your dog places a paw on you during a peaceful moment and then simply stays there, do not rush to interpret it as neediness or a request for something bigger. Sometimes it is just your dog's quiet way of remaining connected to you without asking the moment to become anything more. 3. Sometimes your dog is looking to you for reassurance. There are moments when a paw means something more vulnerable than attention and more urgent than quiet closeness. Sometimes your dog is not just trying to stay connected, they are trying to feel steadier through you. This often happens when something in the environment feels uncertain. A strange sound outside, a new visitor in the house, an unfamiliar place, a tense moment your dog cannot fully read. In those situations, a paw on you can become less of a gentle contact and more of a question. Are we okay here? Can I trust this moment? Can I lean on you right now? That is what makes this version of pawing different. The touch may still be soft, but the emotional weight behind it is heavier. Your dog may look at you more often, stay closer than usual, hesitate before moving forward, press into your body a little more. The paw is no longer just a quiet way of sharing space. It becomes a small act of checking in, and that matters because it shows that your dog is not only reacting to the world directly, they are also using you to help interpret it. When dogs feel unsure, many of them turn toward what is familiar before deciding what to do next. Your presence can help organize the moment, not by making the problem disappear, but by giving your dog a sense that they do not have to face uncertainty alone. That is why the paw can feel so tender in these moments. It is not always asking for petting. It is not always asking for more attention. Sometimes it is asking for emotional footing. So if your dog places a paw on you while something unfamiliar is happening, do not only see the gesture itself. Look at the full picture, the environment, their eyes, their body tension, their hesitation. Because sometimes that small touch is your dog reaching for reassurance in the simplest way they know how. 4. Sometimes the behavior keeps happening because your dog has learned that it works. Not every paw comes from a deep emotional need in the moment. Sometimes the reason is much simpler. Your dog has learned, through repetition, that putting a paw on you often changes what happens next. Maybe you look down right away. Maybe you smile. Maybe you start petting again. Maybe you speak to them, make room on the couch, keep the game going, or even get up to do something they want. From your point of view, those reactions may feel small, but from your dog's point of view, they are powerful. They mean this works, and once a behavior works often enough, dogs tend to keep using it. That does not make the behavior fake. It does not mean your dog is being manipulative in some cold or calculated way. It simply means they are learning from the pattern between action and outcome. If placing a paw on you reliably leads to attention, touch, movement, play, or food, that small gesture can become one of the easiest tools in your dog's social toolbox. This is why some dogs paw with remarkable confidence. They are not always emotionally overwhelmed. They are not always asking for reassurance. Sometimes they are using a strategy that experience has reinforced again and again. And this is also where many owners get confused. They think they are responding to a one-time emotional signal, when in reality they may be strengthening a habit. A paw gets a smile. The smile becomes petting. The petting becomes a routine. And before long, your dog has learned that a single touch can open the whole interaction. That does not mean you should never respond. It means you should notice what you are teaching. Because over time, your dog is not only expressing needs to you, they are also studying which behaviors reliably shape your behavior in return. So if your dog paws at you often, it is worth asking a different question. Not just what are they feeling right now, but what has this behavior usually earned them in the past? Sometimes the answer is not hidden in the emotion of the moment. It is hidden in the history of the relationship. 5. Sometimes pawing is a sign your dog is not as settled as they seem. Up to this point, the paw may have sounded gentle, affectionate, even comforting, and sometimes it is, but not always. There are moments when a dog puts a paw on you, not because they feel calm, but because they do not quite know what to do with the tension moving through their body. This is where context matters more than ever. A paw on your leg can look sweet on the surface, yet means something very different when it appears alongside other signals. Lip licking, turning the head away, fast breathing, restless pacing, soft whining, repeated shifting of position, a dog that cannot seem to settle even while staying close to you. In that kind of moment, the paw is not just a social gesture. It may be part of a dog trying to regulate themselves when their system is a little overloaded. That does not always mean something is seriously wrong. Sometimes it is mild overstimulation, too much excitement, too much uncertainty, too much noise, movement, or social pressure all at once. But even mild overload can change the meaning of a behavior people usually interpret as loving. And that is important because the wrong response can make the moment harder for your dog instead of easier. If your dog is pawing while already showing signs of tension, more stimulation may not be what they need. More touching, more talking, more excitement, or more engagement can sometimes add to the pressure rather than relieve it. In those moments, what helps most may be something quieter, a calmer voice, more space, less intensity, a slower environment, a chance for their body to come back down. This is one of the biggest reasons dog behavior should never be translated by one gesture alone. The same paw can mean connect with me, reassure me, notice me, or I am not coping as smoothly as I look. So if your dog puts a paw on you and something about their body feels restless or strained, trust the whole picture, not just the touch. Because sometimes the most caring thing you can do is not to read the paw as affection, but to recognize that your dog may be having a harder moment than they know how to express. 6, the best way to understand this behavior is to ask what function it is serving in that moment. By now, the most important shift is this. Stop trying to translate the paw into one fixed sentence. It is rarely that simple. A paw on your arm does not always mean pet me. It does not always mean I love you. It does not always mean I am anxious. And it does not always mean the same thing from one day to the next. What matters most is not the gesture by itself, but the job that gesture is doing in that specific moment. That is the real question. What is this paw trying to accomplish right now? Because depending on the context, the answer can be very different. Sometimes your dog is trying to pull your attention back. Sometimes they are trying to hold on to a small point of closeness. Sometimes they are looking for reassurance before they move forward. Sometimes they are repeating a behavior that has worked well for them before. And sometimes they are showing you that they are not as comfortable as they appear on the surface. The outside gesture may look almost identical each time, but the function underneath it can change completely. That is why good interpretation always starts with the full picture. What was happening right before the paw? What your dog's body looked like? What the environment felt like? What usually happens after you respond? When you start paying attention to those details, the behavior becomes much easier to read. And this matters for more than understanding. It matters for how you respond. If the paw is about attention, you may choose to engage. If it is about reassurance, you may offer calm support. If it is a learned pattern, you may want to be more intentional about what you reinforce. If it is a sign of mild overload, the kindest response may be to lower the intensity around your dog instead of adding more stimulation. So the goal is not to memorize one meaning. The goal is to become more fluent in the interaction itself. Because once you stop asking, what does pawing mean in general, and start asking, what is my dog trying to do with this right now? You move much closer to the truth, and that is usually where better understanding begins. Conclusion. So in the end, the most important thing is not finding one perfect translation for every paw your dog places on you. The real shift is realizing that the gesture usually has intention behind it. Sometimes it is a request for attention. Sometimes it is a quiet way of staying close. Sometimes it is a search for reassurance. Sometimes it is a habit that has been strengthened over time. And sometimes it is a sign that your dog is not feeling as comfortable as they appear. That is what makes this behavior more meaningful than it first looks. Your dog does not need a complex language to step into your awareness. Sometimes one paw is enough, one small touch, one quiet attempt to reach you, and then all that is left is the question of whether you will notice what is really happening beneath it. So the next time your dog puts a paw on you, do not stop at that first reaction of, that is adorable. Pause for a second. Look at the moment more closely and ask yourself something deeper. What does my dog need from me right now? Because the better you understand that small gesture, the more clearly you begin to understand the relationship itself.